Axel Kaiser gave the best speech of his life after presenting his new book against the socialists. Thank you very much. I'm going to close briefly so that there is perhaps a space for interaction. First of all, thank you once again to Consuelo, my editor of El Mercurio, who is here present, and that we started many years ago in the adventure of writing books and publishing books. And I think that your bet for this author has yielded its fruits. Consuelo, so well, you are on your way to be rich. Secondly, thank you to Consuelo and Gerardo for presenting the book in the comments so detailed. And also to Consuelo in particular, because a large part of the data that I move in the book are investigations that he has done. So I want to thank him and Arturo, of course, Brother Fernando, who have also participated in the academic investigation about the lost decade of Chile, which is a tragedy and was predictable by others. And I want to thank Rene, because the truth is that he had already done this research work regarding other countries. And for the case of Chile, he commissioned all these studies of opinion and financed them from his pocket. Something that was to be the rich in Chile, but he financed it because he has taken as a crusade this fight for freedom against the prejudices that systematically suffer at all levels the most successful people, those who have contributed the most to social welfare, because they are rich, except that it is the daughter of Hugo Chavez or Christina Kirchner. Not there, but someone from the foundations of this. There you have not contributed. But the rich are the ones who contribute the most to social welfare, that is, to the welfare of all of us. And Reina did this analysis, and thanks to that we were able to write this book. Briefly, I have been since 2005, when I started writing in the Financial Journal. Nobody knew me. I think the first column was on this issue of egalitarianism, arguing that the obsession of Chile with this inequality was going to end us by destruction. There is no more perverse toxin for the psychology of a country than the egalitarian discourse. It is nefarious. It is the worst thing that exists. And when I speak of the egalitarian discourse, I do not refer to equality before the law. Of course, that is what we defend. I mean practical equality, material equality. This idea that there cannot be some that escape a lot. Why is, and I will repeat it once again, a harmful poison for social welfare. Because inevitably it works on the mentality of the zero-sum, to which we have referred here, and puts the accent on those who have more. The egalitarian discourse is not, oh, how are we going to get what is so bad out of poverty? No, the egalitarian discourse is, it cannot be that there are some who are doing much better than others. And when you attack the rich, and this is pure envy, nothing more than envy, no? When you attack the rich, what you do is attack the system that allows rich people to exist. And by attacking that system, which has allowed some to encumber themselves over others, you close the avenues that allow everyone to improve their condition. By the way, what a Chinese minister said, I think it was Deng Xiaoping, by preventing, referring to the past communist of China, that some will ride a Rolls Royce where we will make everyone ride a bicycle, right? In a free country you will have people ride in a Rolls Royce and others will ride other cars. But probably when there is enough progress everyone will ride a car. And that is what matters. So what happens? This diagnosis, I have to say it again, was installed from the extreme left, passing through the entire left center and the entire right center, practically without any exception, including former President Piñera, including the very well-intentioned people, many of our friends in Chile Famos, and so on, that everyone voted in favor of the tax reform of Bachelet in its second government. Or the majority, I don't know if all, but it was supported by the right, which was a mistake, obviously. Without mentioning that the previous government had gone up again and put the company, by the President Piñera, wrongly, in my opinion. Why? Because the paradigm installed, even at the level of businessmen, is, yes, there is a problem with inequality. Because they are so confused that they do not understand that the problem is never inequality. The problem is never inequality, the problem is always the lack of opportunity, poverty, that there is no prosperity, that there is not enough resources for those who are below. Maybe they have a society where they are equally poor. one where everyone is very unequal and no one needs them. Well, the book, what it does is portray in the figures that Gonzalo mentioned, how this anti-rich ideology, which is studied in the chapter, in which the perceptions that Chileans have of the rich are analyzed, ended up turning the country's political economy towards pure state redistribution. But the funniest thing about all the papers I read about this topic, I don't know if it's funny, it's almost tragic, it's one of René Cortázar, who is a person who, without a doubt, has in his mind the well-being of Chile and wants the country to move forward. But he says in that paper, from 2017 or 2019, I don't remember, but one of those two dates, that suddenly in Chile the economic growth stopped. And the only thing that was talked about was the redistribution of wealth. And the history of the economic growth of our country had been forgotten. In other words, to the confession of part, in reality, I'm not sure. This is what I had been saying for 15 years, and I say, I am going to self-reflect because I remember that in the past I was the only one, and everyone hated me for this question. Well, he raises it in a very transparent way, honest, and I find it very articulate. René Cortázar in a paper on the end of the accelerated development of Chile, in which he asks, disconcerted, how is it possible that what happened, what Gonzalo was asking, has happened? Because the ideology of egalitarianism has been established. That is the conclusion to which he does not arrive. But it is evident that when you are obsessed with equality, and you have to thank Nicolás Isigora for having manifested this so clearly, you have to get off the pattern of those who are walking faster. And that was done at the level of education reform, labor reform, and obviously at the level of tax reform, and the constitutional project. What he was actually looking for, the one we rejected last year, was a basically socialist constitution for Chile. It was ending private property in reality, etc. Everything we know. And what was the argument to close it and to give an answer to this question? If you read the book of the other model, of Fernando Atria, Frido Ionian, Guillermo Larraín, José Miguel Manavent, and Javier Couso, all those who should be apologizing publicly to Chile for having supported and promoted the ideology, that is the crystallized reform of Chile, which destroyed the economy of this country. If you read that book, you will realize that there is primitive egalitarianism installed. That is, they come to the conclusion that inequalities cannot be accepted. For example, in terms of health, that is, that there are people who have access to certain tools and others do not. That is, for them it is better that they all die. That the percentage is saved. That comes to the fore. This is the theory of social rights of Atria, which was tried to put into the previous constitution that we rejected. That is, that the social rights of Atria, which was tried to put into the previous constitution that we rejected. What motivated the reforms of Michel Bachelet, and this of equality, obviously, for the people, and not the same for the few, as Orwell did in the revolution in La Granja. Some of us are more equal than others, and Chile was destroyed by a theme of mentality, and public discourse that almost had no resistance, and it showed in what Reina studied, which are the perceptions of the Chileans about the rich. When you have all the culture, the media, the universities, the schools, the social networks talking about finding the rich and finding the economic system, you expect people to think of the rich and of the economic system. Now there is an important opportunity, I think, to reverse that and the work we do for the foundation, and also because the people who are in the center-left have realized that this cannot go on. Eduardo Frei said recently that the economy was on the ground or destroyed. I don't know what concept he used exactly, but he is not the only one. And there are several who are saying that we have to worry about economic development again, because I predict something, as happened in 2019, in which the social crisis that we had was fundamentally the product of the reforms of Michel Bachelet, which destroyed the progress of most of the Chileans, because with a growth of 45%, we did not have what they call social explosions. I sign them. If we do not achieve growth in the next few years, we will have a crisis of this magnitude again, or of another magnitude, or with another connotation, but we will have it again. And the democratic system has to be put back in court in our country, and we are still just getting out of it. Yes, it is. So this is an urgency for the surveillance of the system, Something that Fernando Atria and they incredibly recognize in the other model, simply in the other model, is that the accelerated growth rates, inherited from the neoliberal model of the Chicago boys, allowed the consolidation of democracy in the 90s in Chile. It is very easy to have sympathy for democracy when you have prosperity than when you are living in misery, or when you have big problems to get ahead, and even more if you have issues with crime, public order. Everything gets worse. So this is a concern that should be of the state at this point, for the welfare not only of the poorest citizens, but also of the democratic system. So to close, buy the book, because I want to be rich too. Buy it. Read it, because it has many arguments and data that we put there with Rainer, which will also be very useful to understand what has happened, and as an argument in a debate, in discussions that one has with people. Sometimes one does not know what to say. It is a lot of work to synthesize this book in a few pages and spread it, because if we do not change the mentality before the book, surprise, we will end up very poor. Thank you. Thank you.